Well, it is 12 p.m. Central Time, and that can only mean one thing, that you are listening to the Deal Desk with Alex Buriak and Rob Lewis. And this week's special topic is something that's actually pretty near and dear to me because it deals with a lot of sales and negotiation. What to ask the seller to find out A, do you have an opportunity? And B, what things can you ask up front from the seller to make sure your loans go as planned? So, Rob, I know you've been a lot of not only loans, but you've also done a lot of transactions on your own. You've bought a lot of real estate, you've flipped, you've held, you've done residential, you've done commercial, you've run businesses, all those things. So, let's kind of get started on things and let's do a little bit more. We'll tear it up. We'll go from some residential to commercial to businesses, things like that, because they're all a little bit different, but they do have all the kind of same theme. So, one of the things that I'm going to ask Rob first on the lending side of things in a residential transaction. What are some of the things that you would really want borrowers to really understand what to ask sellers when they're trying to either get short-term loans or long-term loans or anything like that? What are they missing that really hurts their loan process?
Well, it's going to vary because it depends on what we're buying. So, kind of I'll give you an example of something. So,
Absolutely.
yesterday we did a site visit. Can't go into much details because we have an NDA that we signed, but we're looking at financing a motocross opportunity. That motocross opportunity is most likely probably going to be done by SBA,
Mhm.
special financing, special use. And so while we're there, and that was one of the things that me and the buyer, our client, were talking about is what are we going to ask? What are things we need to know? And in those need to knows, those are going to translate to lending. So, for example, this particular property had a T12. So what's a T12, Alex?
Well, tell them everybody how you define a trailing 12 month on this type of asset.
So I didn't think this property had a T12 because it's a motocross, but they also had RVs that we later saw in cabins, so they have real estate income that was coming in, and so a 12-month trailing history of that income and revenue, and something we didn't even think to ask about because we wouldn't have thought about asking about it. So the question was, is there other income that this property has that we're not aware of? Is there things that where are you making your money in this particular property? Can you walk us through that? And that's when we learned that they had RV stations, they had cabins, long-term rentals, they had a warehouse that was being leased by a mechanic that was there to be able to work on motorcycles, do tire changes, etc. And so we learned that there was more scale of income to the property than we knew. So that's going to translate to lending because as we go and start building and formatting, the loan package, being able to show historical income, current, do you have current leases? What are the longevity of those leases? Leases sound great, but if they're expiring tomorrow and the people are moving out tomorrow, so I can say, oh man, it's currently leased. Oh, okay, currently leased. Check. Well, no, currently leased for how long? Currently leased for how much? Is that lease going to increase? Is there a clause in there where the lease can decrease? Those are questions that we don't think about asking, but we ask. And so in this particular scenario, we got a plus side of more income than we realized and a more value add opportunity than we realized. So that's just an example, one example of things that we look at. But it really depends on the property that we're looking at too. A multifamily that we did in Galveston. Um, is there current is there current maintenance that needs to be done? Is there issues that you've had with the property? Yeah, there's been mold. Oh, okay. Because I didn't see that in your seller disclosures. So, going in with a long list of questions, we ask more questions when we buy a car than we ask when we're buying an investment property, and that doesn't make any sense.
And one of the things, especially on the residential side and commercial, Rob said a very key word just now that a lot of you guys are not asking for. and it is going to save you a much headache and help you with negotiations, is seller's disclosure. And why is that? Because if you guys are in, let's talk about the residential fix and flip space. And Rob brought out the dreaded M word. Now we know that we get mildew until there's a biohazard study and air quality studies and things like that. But when you have a seller's disclosure and you're buying an investment property, you may state on that seller's disclosure that it never flooded when you sell the property. And then somebody buys the property and they go to the neighbors and say, hey, my name is Jim and all that kind of stuff like that. And they're like, so, and like, oh man, I can't believe you bought the flood house. And they're like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, this is flooded like two times because it sits low in the yard. Well, then you, my friend, have a lawsuit, all right, on your hands. So one of the things you should always ask for is a seller's disclosure because you not knowing is not legal defense. So when you have a seller's disclosure, you can legally say, hey, listen, I never lived here. I bought this place and this is what I was told by this person. That happens all the time.
Right.
So when you look and you're buying real estate or in residential or commercial, not so much commercial, but more residential, you have a seller's disclosure. You can use that disclosure not only to protect yourself, but help you with the negotiations. Like, oh, it does have, oh, you do have, insurance claims. Oh, you do have this, and it helps you along, and you can afford that to your lender to help you get some things across. So, Rob, some of the things like on residential real estate, you're doing a fix or flip and you're doing rentals. Rob hits the nail on the head absolutely when you have to get lease agreements and look at the lease agreements and see how long they are. But another thing that you should really ask about is how are they collecting payments today? Okay.
Right.
Because if you're buying commercial real estate, there's a really big value about how much money they're making. So, Rob, have you ever seen somebody that has come into our shop, come into your shop, come in and ask for a loan? They're buying an RV park, they're buying a apartment complex, they're buying X. And they said, oh, it's worth this because it collects this and this is the NOI. But then you get the statements and it doesn't really look like that. Can you walk them through what to kind of look for on documented income versus non-documented income, and can lenders use that?
Well, I mean, lenders are going to always want documented income. The second we say undocumented, it's not like trust me. Trust me, I'm not like those other guys. Banks don't do trust me. So banks do, verify. And there is no trust but verify. It's verify, verify, verify. So, so we're looking at, what are the current leases in place? We need a copy of those leases. What is your rent roll? Does your rent roll match the leases that you gave me? Um, in some cases where we're doing non-seasoning loans, they're going to want bank statements to prove up that, yeah, I've owned it for 3 months and these are the leases, but have I collected 3 months of leases and can I prove that through bank statements or, whatever, however you're collecting? Um, you know, there's, prepaid rents. I learned from experience in a multifamily that we bought that there was prepaid rents that were collected. Those prepaid rents should come to you as the buyer of the property, and were those documented? Where's that money sitting? Is it in an account, or did you go to Vegas? um, so those are, is there master leases, those type of things. So being able to prove up and actually document is going to show and help me add value, especially when it comes to an appraisal. So in ordering an appraisal, believe it or not, your appraiser wants those items. Why does the appraiser want those items? Because that is part of the value of, evaluation. So we have a hotel that we're doing where they said it's worth 75 million, and then we get the income statements, and I mean their occupancy is like 20%. There's really no income coming in, and so when you go to do the income measurement, it's really worth 35 million, not 75 million. That's a big change. And you don't want to discover that in underwriting. You want to discover that in your due diligence period, while you're deciding if this is something you're going to buy and look at.
Absolutely, because as Rob look takes about occupancy and more, and even not more importantly, but just as important, the amount of beds, baths are in your facility also matter. And just so you guys know, if you guys are buying apartment complexes, some of the things you should ask is, do you have rooms smaller than 600 square feet, 400 square feet, things like that. The size
Yeah,
of
I forgot about that. Yep.
size
Yep.
of the units can really play a part, and the percentage of the size of the units. So it could actually kick your loan out. You don't need to be paying two, three, $5,000 for commercial appraisals when you already know upfront that it may kick you back, or go to lenders like us, brokers like us that know how to structure things around, know what type of products will satisfy those types of requirements. So always ask about occupancy rates, beds and baths, and size of the units, especially if you're going into the multifamily purchase or refinance realm, because it may limit the type of products you can get. So always ask your sellers that.
And your delinquency. What is the delinquency report on? Do we currently have people that are delinquent? Do we have people that are being looked at as possibly being evicted? So you might be at a 90% occupancy right now, but have 10 tenants that are not paying and being looked at for an eviction. That has come up in underwriting where we where we caught that. And so now your number changed because that is no longer an occupant if they are being looked at for eviction, or if they're a month, 2 months, or 3 months past due. That backs out of your vacancy, and that does change the number.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, going into when we're looking at more again into commercial, what are you seeing out there today when we get loan packages come in? What's some of the maybe top three, if you have it, things that you wish the borrower asked the seller to make the initial evaluation and the initial term sheet more easier to give and more accurate to the borrower, that if we had it, we would have had a easier time to tell them, yeah, this is an opportunity, or no, you're buying this wrong.
Yeah. One of what we did um, I had it on the tip of my tongue and forgot it. But a high performance auto repair shop.
Hmm.
So we did this loan. This is real estate. This is business. This is equipment. You know, and then I'll go into this. But one of the questions we asked is, we need a 3-year history of the income. Seller didn't want to provide it, and buyer's like, well, he said, no, 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 no. We need the 3-year history of income. So finally got something to prove up 3 years history of income, realizing this thing isn't making any money. So always asking for a 3-year history of income, whether it be P&L balance sheets, T12s, depending on the type of business. We prefer tax returns, but sometimes you have a seller that doesn't want to give those for various reasons, or maybe there's personal items in there, or maybe they have other stuff that they write off through there that they don't want seen, but seeing that history. So so that is one of the biggest ones that we've seen.
Absolutely. So it's almost 15 to the hour, and I always make my
Yeah,
ask you
so
guys. So make sure you like, share, and comment on the social sites. Go to YouTube, and we'll put the link in there to watch this over and over again to get the information that you guys need. If you know somebody that's looking to actually scale their business and get the right information so they can get better deals done, faster deals done, send them over to the deal desk. You can always watch these shows as many times as you like, as we post them just the day after, and you always get reminded about what's coming up and what type of deals that we're going to be talking about. So go out there, help us grow the community, help us grow people, help us get them the information they need. They very well may not be aware of what they can do. All right. So going back over to what to ask the seller as a borrower.
So the second is, if I'm buying a business of any kind, is what staff is staying. So when I'm buying a business, I've got a decision to make. I either know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to bring my people and I'm going to wipe out your people, or in a lot of cases, and I'd say majority of what you and I see, people are buying a business they have no experience in.
Mhm.
And so one of the questions that doesn't get asked, and we asked it on this one, is the key, who's running it right now? Well, I've got a manager, and she's great, and she runs the day to day, and she actually lives behind the building and she oversees everything. And if she dies today, then we're done. So is there a key player? Are there key employees? If that person is a no, oh no, they're done, they're leaving, and you don't have experience, that is going to come up in underwriting. You're going to, we are looking more so. Most failed businesses are from lack of experience.
Mhm.
Most failed construction sites are because of lack of experience. So experience and resumes are really coming up. Or if you don't have that experience, is there a key player involved? Do they have a resume? Can I meet them? Can I shake their hands? Are they staying? So those are components that come up in underwriting and a very key aspect of buying. If I'm buying go back to multifamily, same question, but who's managing it?
Mhm.
I might have somebody, but I'd probably rather have somebody that's managing it. But let me talk to them also. May I talk to them? Because then they're going to give you all the hints and secrets to that property that's not coming up in your discussion with the seller or the salespeople involved. So same aspect. Who's running it? Who's got the experience over here? Who's managing it? May I talk to them?
And that Rob brings up a great point on management as well, because it will hit you in the business and in real estate. So when you guys are going to different asset classes, like I want to have a um, assisted living facility, I would like to have a home health facility. I would like, especially when you're getting into the medical facilities, it's one of the first things that can be asked is who's managing it. And the second ask of the management is how much do they cost? Are you switching managers? How much are your costs? So when you look at your NOI on buying a business, you have to look at the current debt structure and the current money out, how they figure their NOI. If you are bringing in new management, and let's say they're paying 9%, but you're paying 11, well, your debt structure is going to be different. And how you're going to be able to be lent to that debt structure and how much money out of pocket you're going to be is going to be really, really important. So Rob hits another nail on the head about not only finding out what type of management it is, but a real good secret is to actually talk to them because you may get the, oh, thank God you're buying this. We can't wait for someone to come in here and start fixing things up again. The toilets haven't worked in 2 years and all the little secrets. Okay. So we're trying to give this information to you guys so you can be better prepared and you're not finding things out after appraisal, during underwriting, trying to
Right.
fix things, trying to renegotiate, trying to do all these things. These things talking and asking the seller is really important to your debt structure and how you're buying this. All right. So, Rob, let's kind of stay on businesses because we did a great episode on and talked a little bit about SBA loans. We probably should do a full SBA show one day. But SBA is real. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just cumbersome and all this, and it's government, so it's hard. One thing, guys, if you deal with people that actually know how to do SBA, most companies actually can be approved for SBA. And even if you already are involved in a business, you have a really good success rate. You just need the right team. Okay. So when you're buying businesses, Rob, let's say somebody is looking to either buy a what are some of what are some really cool businesses that does come across your desk that we could talk about that you kind of wish they would have asked us to make the process simpler? Doesn't have to be SBA either.
I mean, that's the problem with our shop. We get it from all angles. So I mean, we do franchise lending through SBA. I won't say companies to keep me and you out of a lawsuit, but sandwich shops. We get sandwich shops all the time. We get hair cuttery places all the time. We get so those are opportunities that people see and like, okay, where do I go? And as those are great SBA opportunities. 10-year financing. You can build in, working capital. It goes off total project cost rather than just a loan to value perspective. So those are ones that I've done throughout my career that a lot of people turn their nose to. But you're looking at a minimum, 350,000 plus on an opportunity of putting somebody into a business that can scale. One Robbie Ray's sandwich shop, and I turned that into 5 Robbie Ray sandwich shops, which that's our new business, Robbie Ray sandwiches. But you take those Robbie Ray sandwich shops, turn those into 5, and SBA, loves those opportunities. Those are things that we see constantly. But then, I'm going to go back to one of the questions that you asked too, because this is actually coming up on my desk today. When you're buying something that somebody owns free and clear, especially with real estate, you might want to do a lot deeper dive because when somebody owns it free and clear, they're not mandated by bank restrictions, like, requirement of having, and holding insurance, surveys, due diligence reports. So, one of the things that's on my desk now is a survey where we asked to, does the seller have a survey? Well, no, they owned it free and clear. They didn't have to get a survey. Okay, well, we're going to require a survey. So survey is ordered, survey comes in, and there's no legal access to the property. Um, Now there's a driveway there now, but when you break down and look at the survey, there is no true, real legal access. So at any given time, somebody can shut down that this is belongs to the city. This is done, and you can't access that property that you paid $2.5 million for. So, we hate surveys. I don't want to pay for a survey. Trust me, that survey is going to really help save you money or save you from a huge loss by you knowing your easements, accesses. Um, so those, that's one of the things I would always ask for. And we're prone to say, that's a pain in the head. No, these are things that help save you down the road.
Absolutely. Surveys are even important in the residential world, guys. When you have something grandfathered in, like an easement or an overhang or something like that, and you start messing things up in the house, well, there that goes. So I've seen more deals where part of the property was over another property line, but it's been there since 1962. So, but then you start moving things around, and then everybody starts coming over. Always ask the seller if they have a survey because it'll help save you time. Do not be one of those investors that try to nickel and dime their profit saying, well, it's 500 bucks for this and I want to save 500 bucks. Do you want to save 500 bucks or do you want to lose $2.5 million?
Yeah.
All right, so this is not the time to be thrifty on protections, but always ask, if your seller has one, it does save you time. Um, I've I've had investors come to us and they're like, "Oh, and we need to order a survey." And then all of a sudden a survey just pops out and like, "Oh, we've had one the whole time." So just make the ask. The worst thing that the person can tell you is no, and then you just got to get one. All right. So, um, one of the things that will really help out on asking the seller is also, this is just a personal one. Why are you selling?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's it. Yeah.
and know that the first answer is probably a lie. All right, so you're gonna have to start digging in to what this person's real motivations are. And this is where we go into actually sales and negotiations. And we won't spend too much time on that because I know that's not what you guys came in for. But understanding the why we'll start getting a little bit more information about what's really going on here. Remember, nobody wants to sell their business. Nobody wants to sell real estate. Nobody wants to sell their car. Nobody wants to sell anything. They have to. Your job is to try to figure out why they have to, because those little stories are going to be great key pieces of information for Rob and I to figure out how to structure this. What's going on with this? It's like, well, I got an RV park and, or a mobile home park. And like, okay, well, what's the problem? And you get the problem. It's like, oh, we find out that none of the mobile homes are tied down to the real estate. And it's like, okay, this is land only. And
Yeah.
so things like that. So, really start diving in and asking the questions on the why from the seller, and then ask for every piece of documentation you could possibly think of, seller's disclosure, surveys, anything that you can think of, because it does help us out. Now, Rob, even when you're looking to buy, think of yourself as a consumer investor, and then you got your lender's hat on. What are some of the things that you're seeing across the desk that if somebody would have just asked for it, it would have really saved them time and probably gotten them a better deal? Are you seeing anything that we're missing that can really help the investor on what they should be asking for the seller?
I know this isn't what you're asking for, but again, I'm looking at my current issues. But one is utility bills, insurance, and tax expenses. Something, and again, when we what I see a lot of investors is they see the shiny object and it's like it's pretty, but when they start really digging deeper. So, for example, I'm not going to say a city because I don't want to be sued by a city, but there's a particular city, and that particular city requires flood insurance, wind insurance, property insurance, ugly insurance, this insurance. There's about 10 different insurances required in this county, plus the taxes have tripled since, whatever. So the opportunity looked great from a cash flow perspective. Everything went deep until the end of underwriting when all these things were asked for. And then red light, you got $20,000 in taxes and insurance expenses, and it doesn't debt service. Um, and when lenders ask questions, it's like, oh my God, lenders asking so many questions, but it's there for a reason. These questions are there to protect the bank, but also to protect you. And so, part of the due diligence up front is asking, hey, what kind of insurances are we looking at? That becomes, for some reason, in every deal that we're doing, we end up asking for that at the end because prior to closing, we need insurance to close. So we ask the question at the end. And that's usually where we discover we just thought it'd be $100 a month and turns out to be $5,000 a month. So I wish those things would be asked for upfront, make it part of your due diligence, make it part of, in every deal that we write, I use the term, I get it under control. If you really love the property and you don't want to lose it, and they're telling you get it under control with a due diligence period, and in that due diligence experience, everything you and I are asking for, get that in that process. That way, you're not burned at the end at closing, and you start learning things at the end and realize I can't even afford this thing, or based off the leases we currently have, we won't be able to service this debt, and we're going to discover that as your lender. But that's something that, as the investor, you want to make it part of your toolkit so that you know what you're buying.
No, absolutely. Now, it's a little bit before half the hour, and then I'm going to move on to a different asset class, which some of you guys are really into, and some of you guys may be into, but it's something you need to know about. Okay. So again, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, watch this again, watch all of our other episodes, talk about products that you never even knew existed. Go to our social sites, give us a like, a share, a comment, share the show. Get more and more people involved into two people that just really want you guys to understand the business on the debt side and get more deals done. Okay. So now we're going to move into land and development, and that is a whole new ballgame. Okay.
I
So
don't want it.
one of the things I think you should ask the seller is about detention and who has rights to it. You would be surprised. You're like, well, there's a big hole over there, so it has to be mine. No, it doesn't. Okay. So when you're looking in development and land, you have to look at what is the rights of the land. Is there detention? How much land can be buildable? You're looking at text dot data for ingress and egress. You're looking at easements on the land. Is there a pipeline on it? Goes back to the survey issue.
Yeah.
One of the things in new construction, subdivision development, any type of development or land purchase, subdivides, all that kind of stuff. Rob, you've been doing this for 35 years. What do you absolutely wish that people would ask the seller when they're buying land to subdivide or buying land to develop or buying land in general? What would make their world and our world to give them money so much easier?
I mean, ask a lot of questions. What is the current zoning? Is there entitlement approved? Have you ever done a phase one? Um, and what do those things mean? Uh, you know, has there been a geotechnical study? Is there water sewer plans? Have you ever is there a flood survey? Um, though understanding the property, because it's not just land anymore. And it used to be, back when wagons and wheels were happening, it's land. But do you have a title report? I know we're going to order our own, but do you have a title report? Can I see that title report? Um, is there a drainage study? I mean,
Right.
there, there's all kinds of, access agreements. Do you currently have an access agreement? That development right over here that we did had to have an access agreement done with the neighboring neighbors. Otherwise, there would be no roadways. So they paid them 500,000 for that access. Those are agreements that were in writing and in place. And if somebody in access asked that, they wouldn't know or know that they had access. And then a lender would come back, "Oh, you don't have access." No, wait, I think we do. those are questions, but over asked questions when buying a land. Can I build a home? Is this residential? Is this commercial? That goes back to zoning. Um, and we've had those where people have brought loans to us and said, "Hey, man, I'm going to put a auto garage facility here, and I'm really excited about it." And like, well, that's funny because this says no auto garage is allowed on this property. If oh no. So no, those are things that we see constantly.
Yeah, guys, simple things that you just aren't thinking of. Deed restrictions, littoral rights, riparian rights, mineral rights. I mean, all these things come into play. And a lot of you guys are like, well, I'm not doing that, or I'm a wholesaler and I don't need to know that. The more you understand what the people that are deploying the capital would want, the easier it is for you even to sell your property. So even if you're wholesaling a property, even if you're selling a property, even if you're buying the property or developing the property, these questions don't change. So dependent, no matter what part of the investment cycle you're on, these questions that we're giving you for the seller helps you maximize your efforts to see, is this just a lead or is this an opportunity? And there's two different things. Okay. So
Well, and asking for legal description. I mean, one of the ways to try to protect yourself from fraud is get the legal description and do your own research to ensure what you're buying.
mhm.
So I could see this pretty property right here, but the legal description say I'm buying the dump over here. So what am I buying? Can I get the legal description and go and back to survey? Can I get the survey? Ensure what you are buying, and don't get to the closing table and realize that what you thought you were buying isn't what you're buying. And that's we've seen that from fraudsters where, oh well, yeah, well, you know and then you see these pretty pictures on har. It's kind of like internet dating. Oh man, that's pretty. Oops.
Too many right swipes, I guess, for people. Wherever the hell it works. So when you guys are going into land, just know that there is so much that you have to know about the actual parcel. I mean, even when Rob said about flood zones, I mean, do you have do you have wetlands? Do you have, I mean, there's so much. So if you're going into that realm, I want you to listen to these things. I want you to go and really do some research on everything you need to know about your investment. We live in the world of AI. Today, if you talked to me 4 or 5 years ago and you're like, Alex, I just didn't know, got it. But if none of you can't just walk over to Claude or Chat or whatever AI you're using saying, I need everything a bank would ask for this land development to ask the seller for to get it ready for the bank, and you're not even doing that, you got to at least do that. So that's one piece of information that you got on the show, that you're never alone anymore and you can get these things answered so you can get your money quicker. Please make sure you start doing that and you incorporate different strategies and different operations and even on your buy side. All right. So,
And one of the things that was 4 years ago, I heard you at a presentation, and it made sense. But I'm going to expand on what you said that I heard you say 4 years ago. But when you are buying, and I've seen it, and you've seen it, and I don't want to lose the deal. I really want this. And an investor cannot be in the, and I got to clean, I know we're going to clean up what we're saying. You want to be in the FU position, and I'm going to clean it up there. By being eager and anxious, and I don't want to offend the seller, then you are a terrible investor because you are making an investment and you want to ensure that what you're buying is what you're buying. So we've seen it before when we talk about flood zones, floodways, where we had a developer who was buying a piece of property, piece of land, and he went and did it, spent money having plats showing 45 lots. And then by the time the due diligence went through, part of that was in a floodway, and he would have only been able to develop 12 lots. That's a big, big miss, but the seller knew it. And a seller's not always going to tell you. You can have seller disclosures, but we're in a world where integrity is really getting harder and harder to find. So don't be eager. Don't be, I don't want to offend the seller by asking that because I really want this deal. And they said they got 10 people lined up. Well, then let 10 people buy it. If a seller isn't willing to give you information, If you're afraid you're going to offend them for asking for an item, that's a bad play.
Yeah.
And when I'm going into a deal, I'm not their friend. I'm buying it. They're going to make money off of me, but I got to make sure I'm buying what I want, that it'll meet my plan, and that it'll meet my exit strategy. And if it doesn't, and they're not willing to provide, or I'm offending them because I've asked, it's the wrong play.
Right. I always say two things when I'm coaching companies for sales and negotiations. There's two things that you should always follow. Number one, if you put money in somebody's hand and they don't close their hand, you miss the problem. So that means if anybody tells you, well, I got 10 more people, or, I got a couple from Vermont that's going to buy the Cutlass, all that kind of stuff like that, that's not real. Because if I'm selling you something and I ask for $10,000 and you put $10,000 in my hand, do I close my hand? Or do I say, well, I want to see if somebody offers more? If anybody just remember that in human psychology and negotiations, there is no other person. They're trying to pressure you into making a decision that's against what you're trying to do. Okay. And that is just like one of the things I just wanted to make sure you guys are are aware of in asking, and that because Rob is talking about offending, don't most people shy away from confrontation. And they say things to you where just to get you to go away. So don't be that person. You're trying to get money, you're trying to make an investment, you're trying to get everything on board. Okay?
Well, be the person willing to walk away. I mean, I've gotten we have made more money being the person that wants to walk away. And I'll tell you, the very first fix and flip home that we bought, and it flooded in Harvey. We made an offer and we lowballed it, and they came back going, we've got somebody else offering higher. I said, okay, well, man, good luck, wish you the best, and if something changes, give us a call. And so 10 days later, they called us and go, hey, are y'all still interested? And I'm like, yeah, at 40,000 less than what I offered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, my seller will take that. And then we had another opportunity where we had 50 acres of development land. Just because it's 50 acres doesn't mean it's developable. That I can develop it. By saying that I'm okay, wish you the best of luck. Oh man, you have offers? Okay, well, that's awesome. I don't want to interfere with that. I don't want to make anything more confusing for you. But if something changes, call us. We're going to go look at another property. When you're that person,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to look at you with way more respect and be willing to give it to you, whatever you're asking for. If you're asking for key items and they cut you off, like, well, the other people aren't asking for that, and we're going to talk to them, fine. Because if there's a reason they're unwilling to give you that info, at least you don't learn from experience.
Yeah.
And the worst school in real estate lending is learning from experience, and I've learned it, and my butt hurts from it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, um, and I never want to hear any of you guys say this. I don't care, Rob. I don't care, Alex. I just want to do a deal. No, you don't.
Mm.
Want to make money. All right. So I don't want to hear any of you guys coming out of that mouth. So when we go ask, tell you, well, listen, you're going to forget some of this stuff. When we tell you go ask the seller for this stuff or get this information, don't think that's, well, I guess I can't do the deal. No, just get the questions answered. Okay.
Look at
Um,
Marjorie. Marjorie said she's learned from her mistakes.
yeah. Absolutely. All right. So we're getting close to Q&A time. Rob, before we do that, do you have anything else to add that whether they're doing residential, commercial, buying businesses, or going into land development or any other asset class that we can lend to, anything that you really wish people would ask the seller for and get the information so they can get an easier time getting their money?
I mean, honestly, I think we've addressed that, but if I can sell anything today, it is learn the term, get the property under contract, and buy myself time to do enough research so I don't get burned. And then, the one thing that our business does, working with Rob and Alex, is our clients, our friends, they get the property under control and they work with us hand in hand, allow us to tell them what to ask for, Allow us to mentor through the processing, because what we're asking for ensures a good loan process, a good file flow, but also the better pricing, the better opportunities. But by being a partner with your lender through the due diligence process will save you a lot of headaches, cause you from not losing earnest money. I mean, nobody wants to put up 45,000 in earnest money for something and then lose it. That's bad. But but get the property under due diligence, 15 days, 30 days, and then all these things that we're teaching to ask for it, collect, and then let us look and make sure that it meets your need. Because if it doesn't meet your need, and if there isn't a positive exit strategy where you're walking away with a check, there's no sense learning from experience.
Absolutely. Well said. All right, guys. Well, we're getting towards the end of the show here, and this is where we open up for questions and answers on anything we discussed, anything that we didn't discuss, or even if you have a deal that you need to go through and get some advice on the call. So we're going to open it up to see if anybody has any questions about how they can get more deals done, anything we talked about, any deals that they're looking at, how a certain capital stack works, or just get some business advice while you're on the call. When you're on these things, one thing I'll challenge you before I start opening up is don't be the person that doesn't ask questions. Listening to us is good, but you're not going to retain anything unless you get in there and ask the question that's on your head. There are no stupid questions. I know it sounds like a cat poster, but the only stupid question is the one that you didn't ask. All right. So let's hear if anybody has any questions for us today about anything that they're trying to do. Just kind of raise your hand and I'll pick on you, or or we'll call it a day. So anybody have any questions?
I might have one.
Okay,
I can't find the hand.
that's okay. I got you.
Okay.
Just give it an
So has anyone ever converted a non-performing RV park into a tiny village? Just curious, because you all know what I do for a living. So
When
just
you say tiny village, are you talking about
Right.
tiny house?
Yeah.
yes, yes. I figure the infrastructure is there, partially there. Can it be improved on, converted? Again, from an RV park to a tiny village.
Long term or short term stay?
Probably long-term stay. So there's, steady income. Um, you know,
Yeah, so SBA is for short-term stay, so that would not be a play. But
okay,
yes, there's one in Conroe that was done, and
Mhm.
and that is possible. Um,
okay. Because
it's
I'm
not
look
it's not the easiest loan program, but it is out there. But yes, it has been done.
because I'm looking at one right now. I just found it. So,
Does it have tiny homes on it already, or is it full RV?
it's full RV. It didn't look like it's at full occupancy. Um, that's all I know. That's all I
So
know.
yeah, and the capital to buy the tiny homes, where would that come from? Loan leverage or personal?
Um, Maybe both.
Okay.
I have I've got assets on my personal side and on the business side that
Okay. Little more complicated to discuss on this call, but
yeah,
definitely something that we can do, Alex and I and you on a Zoom. But yeah, one, yes, it's been done. Two, it is a process and a plan needs to be in place. But yeah,
okay.
and we're fans of the tiny homes. I love the tiny home plan.
I do too. You know that 1,000 square feet or less, 400. I mean, it's perfect. You know, 400, 600 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the opportunity that we did a site visit on yesterday was, motocross, RV, and had four tiny homes with expansion to add additional tiny homes.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have four mobile homes on there that they're slowly replacing with tiny homes. So it's not an overnight plan,
Right.
because it'll hurt you, but it is definitely a proposed
Phases.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, Rob, the only time I've ever seen, the only issue that is the type of product is very limited for the tiny homes.
Mhm.
They don't like the even though that it just makes sense, it's a structure and stuff like that. That's the only thing that I've seen is that it's really limited on the type of product you can get.
So the same thing with barndominiums. Barndominium, there was no product. Now conventional is actually looking at barndominiums, and you can do them. You got to be able to have comps, so you need at least 4 or 5 barndominiums within the area. But what used to be never happening is now happening. Same thing with tiny homes. There's a way to, just like mobile homes. Are we fixing it? There's questions that will go in. So there are lenders now that will lend on tiny homes, do like the opportunity, but there's guidelines in place to how they have to be, situated, and is there a history, is there experience? But it's becoming similar to RV. And if you actually look at a lot of RV parks, you're starting to see a mixture of RV and tiny homes, and that's where that play is coming from.
I stayed at one of those for like 3 years in near Destin, Florida.
Ah,
Nice.
Yeah, 3 years.
Well,
The
I'd live in one.
what?
I would live in one.
yeah.
I did it for 3 years. It was interesting. It was a nice RV park. They were making money. I mean, one RV pad it was $1,700 a month. I mean, that's cost of a 1 bedroom apartment. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, holy cow, they're making money.
Hmm. No,
Yeah, the ones in Conroe are 2,500 a month, and you're looking at that going, why?
yeah. And
But if
that
you, I mean, I'm 55, and what do I use? My kitchen, my bathroom, and my master where I sleep. That's it. I've got
Well,
all this real estate, all this square footage that is just wasted, except for where my dogs go.
yeah, I was looking at in Conroe, there's a 42-foot DRV, fifth wheel. I was like, oh my gosh, I can live in one of those.
huh,
42 foot. I was like, okay.
there's
That's
usually
awesome.
always a second party in the relationship that stops any kind of decision like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm still single.
Well, awesome. No, Marjorie, just let's schedule some time. Let's go over the opportunity, okay? And let's see. Let's.
Yeah. I have a meeting with my CPA because he told me I got to stop for a minute. He says we need to look at all the income that you're generating from your Houston apartment complexes. He
Right.
says, we got to offset that. He says we don't want it coming to you. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere.
Here, I'll text you a link. Let's get some time. I have an idea for that too, okay?
Yeah, because
And the idea is going to make you money.
I think I've got this other realtor. I said to her, I can do all these seminars and do the numbers on a whiteboard, and I'll do the circuit because I already did. She asked me something with FEMA, no, what is it? Oh crap, Trinity County.
Mhm.
And I told her why they do not have FEMA fermets or FEMA grids because they're on the archaic system. They're pre 1985. There's nothing digital. But I found out yesterday, January of next year, they will have all of their FEMA information because she was having problems with the lenders not able to create or have a flood elevation certificate. You can't
Oh,
get it.
And then you can't get insured and you can't get
yeah.
billed.
That's right. And that's what happened. She had 3 veterans that just couldn't get a mobile home because the underwriter, they just could not get a flood elevation certificate. They could not. And so I told her you had to physically go to the county and find the paper copy. And that is Trinity County, Texas. But I gave her a little memo on it. I should pass it to you what I learned because it all leads to lending, right?
Right.
It all leads to lending, whether it's commercial, residential. If you can't find a FEMA, get the FEMA layer, you can't lend.
100%.
That's why we're the cool kids. It always comes back to us.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
Okay.
I'll get you a link and we'll get the we'll look at your we'll look at the tiny home stuff, and we'll look at some opportunities for you as well that I think that you should entertain. All right, cool. Anybody else have any questions about anything before we sign off today and see you next week on the deal desk? So does anybody else have any questions that they're burning to get done?
Hey, Zach, I see you.
Yeah, I see you hiding behind everybody. All right, Zach
Hi,
doesn't.
Zach. I'm going to make you say hi. Say hi.
Here he is. All
There
right.
he
All
is.
right.
That's an introvert right there. That's my people.
All right, good. So that means that's the show, guys. We really appreciate it. We really hope you learned a lot. We really hope you let people know that there's two people out there that just want you guys to know stuff. All right. So make sure that you get us involved and get us what you need to be. Like Zach, I know you're in the shop and it's loud. Remember, we can help with all that other mergers and acquisitions and things you're doing up there. So just make sure you reach out when you're ready. I already know your story. All right, so just make sure that you guys get involved, look at the other videos, look at the products, look at the opportunities, and look how easy it can be when you actually have the right team that knows how to structure you, knows how to stack your capital, and knows how to get you to the exits that you need to be at to keep buying. All right, so I hope you see you next week. Rob, do you have anything else to say before we sign on?
Nope.
Awesome. We will see you guys later. Bye.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.